Good afternoon, Pattie Curran. She is a North Carolina mother of three. She has a story to tell related to the impact of the Affordable Care Act, ACA. And this is a topic that isn't getting a lot of coverage right now, but will in the next 30 days or so, when folks begin to get notification of reapplication for their insurance policies associated with the Affordable Care Act. But this particular story is one of the impact of the ACA, Obamacare, National Health Care, whatever you'd like to describe it as. So this afternoon we've asked Pattie Curran to join us. This is an outgrowth of a story that appeared recently in the Daily Caller. And with that, Pattie, good afternoon. Thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
This is an interesting story. You have firsthand experience of the downside or the negative side of the Affordable Care Act. Tell us something about your experience, then I want to get into some details.
Oh, it's been an absolute nightmare. We knew it was coming. Our premiums have increased, our co-pays, out-of-pocket maxes, and then just recently in the last month, my children's life-saving medications are no longer covered.
Okay, I'm a little confused. I shouldn't say confused. Life-saving medications, tell me about this. What are we talking about?
They're actually compounded medications for mitochondrial disease and what's called the mito cocktail. That's what the doctors call it, and they target mitochondria because I have two children with Shwachman-Diamond syndrome and secondary mito. And
wait. These are terms that you're using on a regular basis. Tell us something. What are the manifestations of these diseases?
Shwachman-Diamond syndrome is a genetic bone marrow failure syndrome, and basically my children don't make enough white blood cells, and
okay.
The white blood cells they do make don't function properly, so they can't fight infection, and they have other manifestations of the disease, but that's the main one. And then mitochondrial disease, a lot of people may remember Justina Peltier. It's what she had. It's a degenerative neuromuscular disease. And so these medications that are no longer covered and had been covered prior to Obamacare up until this last month, they target the mitochondria and help them as far as like muscle strength and weakness. In fact, our doctor wrote a letter, and I have it right in front of me, and this is just the one line that really, he had it in bold. It says, if insurance coverage for these compounded vitamins is denied, my son may develop neurodegenerative symptoms which can result in death. And that's kind of shocking right there, but we found out that we cannot appeal unless our plan changes back. So it's rather scary to think that these are no longer covered. So what we used to pay $150 in co-pays each month for will now cost us probably close to $700 when we have to buy them ourselves.
Let's talk about your children's condition. Is this something that is permanent, or can it be cured?
There's no cure for mitochondrial disease. This is the only treatment. The mito cocktail is the only treatment. They do have some clinical trials that my kids aren't eligible for some medications, but as of right now, this is the only treatment. Shwachman-Diamond syndrome is also genetic and lifelong. A bone marrow transplant could cure the bone marrow aspect of the disease, which is another scary aspect of Obamacare, because if we're dumped to the exchanges here in North Carolina, my kids lose access to their Shwachman-Diamond specialists and their mito specialists, but it's important because people don't think about this. If we can't leave the state of North Carolina, my kids' chances of survival, if they have to go to bone marrow transplant, is 50%. If they're able to go to Cincinnati Children's or Seattle Children's, it increases upwards of 90%.
Okay, let's stop here with this because you're sharing something with me that I was not aware of. Under the Affordable Care Act, are you restricted as to where you can seek medical assistance and medical care?
Yes, as far as when I looked at the Blue Cross Blue Shield website, because I'm afraid that we're going to lose our employee benefits. It's rather scary, and I looked on the website, and their doctors and these centers are not in network or part of the plan, so they're not covered. Even the plan that costs like $1,706 a month, they don't cover their current specialists. And that's quite scary for my family. We're hoping that we don't get dumped to the exchanges, but the employer sent in a letter last year before open enrollment stating that their medical costs, their health care costs, were to increase by $7.4 million because of Obamacare. So we kind of feel like this may be our last year that we have employee benefits.
Our guest, Pattie Curran, who's the mother of 2 children who have basically life-threatening diseases, or I'll call them conditions. I don't know that you'd necessarily describe. Would you describe it as a disease? I mean,
yeah.
Okay. You and your husband are now faced with increased health care expenses, not decreased expenses, as was originally anticipated with the Affordable Care Act. Tell us a little something without getting into details of your husband's employer. How large a company, and is this a company located there in the Winston-Salem area?
Yes, they're based out of North Carolina, and it's a worldwide company. So they have employees all across the United States, and
so they're going
Honduras, Nicaragua.
Okay, this is a company with more than 100 employees, so therefore, automatically the employer mandate kicks in for this company come basically January 1.
Right.
All right, and you've had conversations with the company. The company's health insurance policy did in fact cover your children at I'm going to use the description, a reasonable rate?
Oh, absolutely. Prior to Obamacare, we were blessed when my husband got this job. Their pre-existing conditions were covered without a HIPAA letter. They were covered right off the bat. Didn't even have to prove that we had never lost insurance or anything.
All right, and for those who are wondering, you hear the term HIPAA. That's Health Insurance Privacy and Portability Act, if I'm not mistaken. It's an acronym. We hear it bandied about a great deal. And of course, HIPAA regulations are such that employers have to, under certain circumstances, cover certain conditions automatically, and it's portability, it's Privacy and Portability, Health Insurance Privacy and Portability Act. The issue of portability in this case, Pattie, is there portability for your insurance coverage for your children? Should you move to another state, or would you have to fall under a separate set of insurance policies and structures in other states if you were to move? This is another concern I'm sure you have.
Right. Are you talking about under Obamacare or
under Obamacare?
I guess each state, depending on the insurance offered in that state, because we know, well, I look at this way, it's not really, Obamacare is government-controlled health care because all of the plans have to be the same, so we don't have a choice in the plans. If we move to Ohio or if we move to Washington, then those plans, well, I take this back, those plans should cover Cincinnati Children's, but as you know, like Seattle Children's, remember Seattle Children's is suing the Oregon Exchange because so many of their kids, the policy didn't cover Seattle Children. So, I guess that could be a potential problem right there. But as of right now, we have not planned on moving out of the state of North Carolina. My husband's been with this company since 2005, and he loves his job. The company is great. They're absolutely great. They paid over $500,000 just for my family alone last year. $398,000 of that was just for their medication.
All right. Now, I want to get back to the health insurance policy that you're currently under. And by the way, I have to correct myself. HIPAA is Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So it's HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. And our guest, Pattie Curran, who's a parent, a mother with 2 children, is that correct?
Well, I have three, 2 of whom have Schwachman Diamond and Mido. So.
All right, with 2 serious conditions that require, if you will, there's a chronic disease and it cannot be cured. It's long term, and you are now dealing with the impacts of the Affordable Care Act. Now, your insurance company, your current, the employer that for whom your husband works. The decision, the announcement of a possibility of having, having all of their employees go out on the open market for the Affordable Care Act. Is this something that you are currently dealing with, or is this something that you fear that you're going to have to deal with if the employer is not able to meet the requirements?
Right, it's something that we fear. We haven't, as of yet, been told that we'll be dumped to the exchanges. But last year, for the first time, now keep in mind, my husband has been with this company since 2005. So we have, 6 years, if you count 2005 to 10, of pre-Obamacare experience with the same insurance company that hasn't changed, and same employer. Never before during open enrollment has they ever sent us any letters such as, what we received, or had the Human Resources Department make a video to explain that they were trying to help us get ready for the options and choices that we would have in 2015. So that kind of has made me nervous this whole entire year of 2014 that they meant that they were going to, dump us to the exchanges. They may not. We don't know. But it's something that I fear, because when you look at the cost increase that they are experiencing in 2014, $7.4 million is a lot of money.
Right. All right. I want to get back to that in just a moment. After this quick commercial break, our guest, and I thank her for being with us this afternoon, Pattie Curran. We're talking with her about the issue of the Affordable Care Act and the impact this could potentially have on her family and, by the way, the finances associated with the care of her children. You're listening, of course, to Viewpoints on the talk station, FM 107, AM 1240. Talking with her about her experience with health care, particularly what she faces if her husband's employer does in fact have the employees go out on the open market for the Affordable Care Act. But Pattie, I'm also wondering, in addition to this, of course, is the employer's ability to meet the standards if they are to apply the Affordable Care Act requirements. The company, of course, now large enough to warrant the mandatory employer mandate, which requires that the employer provide a variety of additional health care services. Is there a possibility, and I just I'm thinking of all the alternatives, is there a possibility that should your employer decide to stay with coverage for the employees, that you will possibly be able to continue to receive this the medical care for your children, which you said a moment ago right now is the cost of the drugs supply would drop. Let me see, it would increase to, I'm looking at a story here, $708 for a... Oh,
that's a different medication than this Mito cocktail. That's a whole different story. That one, let me explain that one. So from 2005 to 2010, a medication that protects my son's kidneys from damage had a copay of $131.
Right.
And never had a problem. Now, it is a name brand because my son does not respond to generic, has done, we had testing that proves that he does not respond to the generic. His pressures are too high and it would cause kidney damage. So he's on name brand. Never had to fill out any paperwork. We just paid $131, 3 months supply. Obamacare passed in 2010, and then in 2011, much to our horror, that copay went up to $283, and we tried to get medical necessity exceptions, and it's just a nightmare because you got to figure out the right paperwork, right department, so forth and so on. It got up to $532, and I have all of this on my blog if people want to see pictures of the invoices, the letter from my husband's employer. It's all out there for everyone to see, including a letter from my kid's doctor. And so just recently, it took us 3 months to get the exception, because it's only good for 1 year, and we can get the generic cost. But paying that $532 copay several times while we were trying to work things out was just, it was a nightmare. And it's just as much of a nightmare having to work through this, because we're going to Cincinnati Children's in a couple of weeks for a surgery. My son's going to be inpatient. We've got other appointments and testing. And in the midst of all of this, we're having phone calls with nurses and doctors who are spending hours on the phone with the companies, with the insurance company, trying to get this medical exception. Otherwise, we'd have to pay $708 for the medicine. And it's just a nightmare all around. Before Obamacare, no paperwork, affordable. after Obamacare, it's not affordable. It would bankrupt our family, and I'm spending hours on the phone
and then in the process talking to folks such as myself. Pattie Curran joining us. I'm looking at the story I'm reading here that broke recently in the Daily Caller. You noted that you've gotten a letter from the company, your husband's company. The company's healthcare costs were expected to increase by $7.4 million above the $64 million paid by so the company is currently paying $64 million in healthcare costs for healthcare insurance. Wow.
Absolutely. It's amazing. It's a very large company. So
okay, but
if I told you what they did, you'd figure out the company. And
no. That's not important. What is important here is the impact of the Affordable Care Act on folks such as yourself. So, if in fact you end up having to go out onto the exchange, there will be several things that will happen based on your knowledge so far, and you've been researching this, I gather.
Oh, absolutely, because you try to stay one step ahead of the game. And not only that, it's like I don't want to have anxiety over being dumped to the exchanges, because we were told this was going to be wonderful, great. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Well, we know it's not true. We liked our meds, we can't keep our meds, and we now know that we won't be able to keep their doctors either.
Well, and then on top of that, as you said earlier, you would probably be forced to utilize the services in North Carolina for some of your children's conditions, where you would like to be able to travel to other clinics across the country. Am I correct on that?
Absolutely. We don't have a bone marrow failure clinic in the state of North Carolina. And that's what we go to the bone marrow failure clinic at Cincinnati Children's, and they see the most patients with Shwachman-Diamond syndrome, Fanconi's, Diamond-Blackfan anemia, all these rare diseases, as does Seattle. So between those two centers that have bone marrow failure clinics, they see the most patients. And if you have a child with a rare disease, you'd want to go where they see the most patients.
Well, absolutely. Now, what is the deadline for you and your company? What are you? How close are you to this moment of fear and concern associated for the Affordable Care Act? I mean, is this happening in the next month or so?
Most likely. We usually get letters, somewhere around election time, if Obama doesn't stop it again this year. Do you remember when he stopped that?
Right.
But so usually around this time of year, October, November, is when we have open enrollment, and we'll find out. And I'm just praying, because we've been blessed up until this point. We've not had a problem with anything being denied. Everything was covered. It's just shocking. And American families need to know that my family could be their family. You have one illness, anything pop up, and you'll be devastated.
Now, and you have obviously been on the hustings with this. What has been the response to your efforts to advise the public? Have you had any critics, anyone criticizing you? I mean, in light of the fact that this is a topic that most people don't think about. They are thinking about your basic health care, everything from an annual physical and acute care that, for example, an appendectomy, something that would put you in the hospital for a short period of time and then back on the streets. You've got a situation where this is a chronic condition and, quite frankly, at this point, not curable, manageable. What has been the response to your calls of concern?
Well, the senators don't seem to care. Kay Hagan never responds. She likes to send me letters saying that Obamacare has helped families. In general, the left, I've been attacked, which I can take it. I'm a big
Why
girl.
Have you been why have you been attacked? What is the...
It's the typical, I'm lying, it can't be true, because life-saving medications are always covered, your costs didn't go up. Even when I have these things on my blog for people to see, I'll have people tell me I shouldn't get my news from a blog, and I just laugh. I laugh it off, but a lot of them, they don't understand it, and it's just like with the generics versus, this has been the recent, the Daily Caller article came out and people were going crazy over the generics versus name brand. And what they don't understand is there are people who don't respond to generic medications. Of all my children's medications, there's one medication that is name brand, and that's because he doesn't respond to generics, and our doctors have told us that it's common. There are articles that people will research, and so that's been, they can't believe that, and I don't know if they just have their head in the sand or if it's just a knee-jerk response because they don't want to take a look at the facts, because I clearly have the facts out there for everyone to see. I have invoices showing several years of $131 copay, and then each subsequent invoice, and it goes to $283, $343, $495, $532, you know, and I have screenshots of what it would be if we weren't able to get the exception again that show that it's, you know, 708. So I really don't know why the attacks, other than they haven't had to use Obamacare or they haven't been impacted by Obamacare, or it blows my mind. So.
All right, Pattie Curran, our guest. I won't keep her much longer. We're talking about her experience with 2 children out of 3 who have chronic diseases, and the concerns that she faces, she and her husband face, should they end up losing their employer coverage, or employer, I'll use the word employer coverage right now. And now, Pattie, you say you've been criticized. Let's talk about your blog. If people are interested in following this story, how would they do so?
It's Catholic Tea Party Hippie.
Okay, Catholic Tea Party?
Right, Catholic Tea Party Hippie, .blogspot.com.
All right, I like the term hippie. Okay,
Yes.
Catholic Tea Party Hippie .blogspot.com.
And you can see all of the, and I have some of the attacks from the left because I'm taking screenshots of some of them because they are kind of funny. I mean, I just laugh, you know, like when they tell me that Obamacare isn't government-controlled health care with insurance reform. I like to come back and tell them, well, the government dictates what is and is not covered by insurance, thus it is government-controlled health care.
Well, I'm wondering, and pardon my stuttering, I'm wondering, has anyone with Blue Cross Blue Shield, or any of which of course is the primary provider in the exchange at this point, has anyone in Blue Cross Blue Shield been in touch with you and talked to you about the alternatives by any chance?
No, I've never contacted them, and they've never contacted me. I've only looked on the website and looked at the plans, and if you go there, you know, they have on their website, you can go in, look at the plans, and you can see there's a drop-down box, and you can type in your doctor's name, the clinic name, and you can see if they are on the plan that you're wanting to check out. And our doctors, you know, they're out-of-state specialists. We're not.
Okay. So, and because they're out of state, you're I say doubtful, or you're knowledgeable that you would not be able to utilize those services under the current Affordable Care Act's benefits.
I'd have to say that I'm 99% sure we would not be able to. We might be able to fight and possibly be able to get seen, although we know families with the same disease whose insurances will not allow them, you know, whether it's Medicaid or some other insurance will not allow them to go out of state. So it's, you know, you could win, you might lose. I would prefer to keep my plan that we have now and be able to go where I like.
You can keep your plan and your doctor if you. Okay, I'm sorry. That was somebody else's.
Well,
that was somebody else's line.
Funny.
Yeah, I know. Pattie Curran, our guest. I thank her for being with us this afternoon. Her blog is Catholic Tea Party Hippie .blogspot.com. One more time, Catholic Tea Party Hippie .blogspot.com. We'll be posting this on our Facebook page if that's all right with you, Pattie.
Oh, that's absolutely fine. It's a very conservative blog, so in case the title didn't give it away.
Oh, definitely. All right, stay with me. I'll chat with you briefly off air. I thank you for being with us this afternoon. Again, Pattie Curran, we're talking with her about the experience that she's having associated with the issue of health care coverage as a result of the Affordable Care Act. As a matter of fact, sticking on the issue of health care, coming up in just a moment, an interview I did earlier today with Laurie Forbes Neff, on a program for veterans. A very interesting story.